New rules for party fundraisers. The opposition says, why bother?
All Mr. Trudeau has to do is stop having cash for access events.
Innocent kids still flagged as potential extremists.
How do I explain to a 6-year-old that he's not going to see a game with his grandparents?
Plus, he pulls drug addicts back from the brink of death. We ride along with a BC paramedic. Tensions around the fairness of free trade have started a war of words between Mexico and the U.S. But today, it's Canada feeling a real sting after news General Motors will move hundreds of jobs from Ontario to Mexico. 625 positions will be cut from one of GM's most productive plants, one that employs nearly 3,000 people. The layoffs are a big blow to the city of Ingersoll. That's where Ron Charles is with our story.
The announcement that GM will shed a quarter of its workforce at this plant came as a surprise to many workers here.
I didn't think it was going to happen. I was kind of shocked, really.
There's a lot of good paying quality jobs that should be here in Canada, but slowly and surely we see them, going south of the border.
That's what's worrying to their union. GM's decision to ship production of the GMC Terrain, one of the plant's 2 vehicles, to Mexico. Union leaders blame trade agreements like NAFTA, and they welcome Canada's offer to renegotiate it after Donald Trump's threat to tear it up.
Renegotiating some type of trade agreement will hopefully lead to better job security in Canada.
The timing of the GM job cuts and production shift to Mexico adds pressure on Justin Trudeau as he prepares to talk trade with Trump. His economic development minister says part of the plan is to continue promoting Canada as a good place to invest.
We've seen recently, over the past few months, over $2 billion being invested in our automotive sectors.
GM announced just 2 years ago an $800 million investment in this plant. Today, a company spokesperson said the automaker is still committed to investing in its Canadian facilities, just not for this vehicle.
It was previously announced with employees that the next generation GMC Terrain will be produced outside of Cami. We have confirmed the production location to be Mexico.
The company announced the remaining 2,000 or so workers at the plant will produce the next generation of the successful Equinox. Auto industry experts say that at least tempers today's job cuts announcement.
It's not good news, but this is not devastating. And in the end, growth was pretty substantial in Canada's automotive industry in 2016.
Even though GM's original decision to move Terrain production to Mexico predates the U.S. election, confirming the decision during Trump's first week in office will almost certainly conflate the two. Ron Charles, CBC News, Ingersoll, Ontario.
Investment in Canadian auto plants can be a big lift to the industries around them. It can take a city that's seen hard times and revitalize it. From Ingersoll, we head to Windsor, Ontario, where good times are living under a shadow of protectionist talk. Havard Gould explains.
For years, it looked like Windsor's woes would never end. Now, Carla Samajavari has all the construction work she can handle.
Very busy. Actually, we are non-stop. As soon as we're done a house, there's another house to build and another house to build.
If it just cools off a bit.
Ben Klundert's construction company is working flat out. He might be able to build more houses if he could get more skilled workers.
They're hard to find, but we could always use probably another 4 or 5 on that side.
Windsor's rebound started with Fiat Chrysler's massive minivan plant, where a $1 billion upgrade recently completed and more than 1,000 new jobs boosted confidence.
It's good. It's good for a change because, Windsor's been down for a long time.
2 years ago, the unemployment rate in Windsor was at times more than 11%. It's now less than 6%.
But even with the low unemployment and forecasts calling for high economic growth, there is fear here.
The city counts on the free flow of autos and auto parts back and forth between Canada and the U.S., a flow U.S. President Donald Trump has put in doubt with talk and tweets.
Windsor's back. Windsor's back.
The head of the area's Economic Development Corporation has plenty of reasons to be upbeat. But still, wondering what Donald Trump might do next keeps Stephen McKenzie up at night.
It's nerve-wracking. I guess human nature has a habit in a vacuum of, or not knowing the information to jump to the worst-case scenarios.
In that worst-case scenario, tariffs on the auto industry pop up, and Windsor spirals downwards. The risk is real, according to industry expert Tony Feria. But he believes that Trump or his advisors will realize that disrupting the highly integrated Canada-U.S. auto industry would immediately do damage on both sides of the border.
You don't want to willy-nilly do something that's where, in fact, you're promising to create U.S. jobs that may lose U.S. jobs.
So, for now, Windsor is booming. This local shopping mall is going to get a $70 million makeover. And there are even bidding wars breaking out for Windsor homes. A city that was down for so long, hoping its new direction doesn't change. Howard Gould, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
It's not just the auto industry that would be affected by a Trump import tax. Many U.S. businesses depend on Mexican trade. And today, from a small restaurant to a billionaire, there was pushback. Jacqueline Hansen has our story.
Sholo restaurant in Oakland, California is more than 700 kilometers from the Mexico border, but to owner Matthew Ridgway, that's no distance at all.
Things like tomatoes, avocados, onions, limes, all those things are supplemented from Mexico when we can't be producing them seasonally ourselves here in the United States.
Thank you very much, sir. But President Trump again today claimed the Mexico-U.S. trade relationship is entirely one-sided.
They've made us look foolish. We have a trade deficit of $60 billion with Mexico.
His new administration wants to change that and help pay for Trump's promised border wall at the same time. Trump still considers that 20% border tax as one possible solution. Former President of Mexico Vicente Fox is yet another voice doubting Trump will follow through.
I don't think he will do it because there is so much to lose for United States.
That's because Mexico wouldn't actually pay the tax. Companies selling Mexican goods in the U.S. would, which could end up costing American consumers. Some experts say the side effect could be lost jobs in both countries, and Canada could also suffer if a trade dispute slows down the U.S. economy.
Slapping on a tariff which produces a rise in consumer prices and a decline in employment in certain sectors is not going to be good for Canada.
This University of Toronto professor says Trump is making too much of America's trade imbalance with Mexico.
Trump is a businessman, and I think he probably thinks of the trade deficit as like the bottom line for your company. You're in the red. And countries are not companies. Countries can run trade deficits for a very long time and still do quite well.
Mexican businessman, billionaire, and one of the richest people in the world, Carlos Slim, tried to calm Mexicans' fears about Trump's policies. Trump is a great negotiator, he says, not a terminator.
But for now, Trump's hot rhetoric has everyone wondering if decades of free trade will soon be replaced by a trade war. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
The new U.S. president signed 2 new executive orders today, one of them highly anticipated and controversial. As a candidate, he had called for extreme vetting of people seeking to enter the U.S. from predominantly Muslim countries. Today, he set that in motion. Here are the key elements: a 120-day suspension of the entire U.S. refugee program. For Syrians seeking refuge, that suspension will continue indefinitely. The U.S. will accept no more than 50,000 refugees in 2017. In 2016, it accepted 117,000. Priority will now be given to claims from those in minority religious groups. Earlier in the day, he told a Christian TV network that persecuted Christians will be given priority. Donald Trump also welcomed his first foreign leader to Washington today. Britain's Prime Minister was given the honor in recognition of what both countries have long called a special relationship. But Theresa May was hardly the only leader on the U.S. agenda. The CBC's Lindsay Duncombe explains.
In his first meeting with a foreign leader, Donald Trump looked presidential.
Great days lie ahead for our 2 peoples and our 2 countries.
Perhaps toning down his rhetoric for the benefit of his company.
Mr. President, I think you confirmed that you're 100% behind NATO.
100%? That doesn't sound like Donald Trump, who's previously called NATO obsolete.
Mr. President, you've said before that torture works. You've praised Russia.
Watch how Trump deals with a pointed question from a British reporter.
This was your choice of a question. There goes that relationship.
A joke from the same man who yelled fake news at his last press conference. Today's different Donald Trump could signal the new president is learning the consequences of his actions on the world stage. Take what happened with Mexico. Yesterday, President Peña Nieto canceled his visit to Washington over the border wall issue, prompting an hour-long makeup call with Trump today, and a White House statement assuring the importance of the friendship between the two nations despite very public differences. Russia is the next big challenge. Trump will speak on the phone with Vladimir Putin tomorrow, amid concerns the new president is too friendly with the Russian president, prompting this from Senator John McCain. The man on the other end of the line is a murderer and a thug who seeks to undermine American national security interests at every turn. For our commander-in-chief to think otherwise would be naive and dangerous. Standing next to May, Trump said it's too early to make a call on lifting sanctions against Russia and sounded lukewarm on Putin.
I don't know the gentleman. I hope we have a fantastic relationship. That's possible, and it's also possible that we won't.
That answer could have been for the benefit of his guest. The British Prime Minister supports Russian sanctions. And one criticism of the new president is he seems to change position based on his last conversation, making it difficult for America and the world to predict what's next. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
Coming up, Syrians who fled to Turkey give us their thoughts on Donald Trump's refugee ban.
I find it, can I say stupid? Because I find it stupid.
Plus, Trump makes a big show of signing executive orders. We find out the limits to the power of his pen. The ice storm in New Brunswick is being blamed for the deaths of 2 people. Officials say carbon monoxide poisoning was the cause. Premier Brian Gallant reminded people of the dangers of using generators, barbecues, and open flames indoors during the ongoing power outages. More than 57,000 homes and businesses had no electricity for a 3rd day. Some grocery stores were still open, but with no lights or heat. 3 communities in the Northeast declared a state of emergency. The federal government says it's ready to help the province in the recovery. The Prime Minister has taken a lot of flack lately for what the opposition has called cash for access. Justin Trudeau denies that's what it is, but after months of defending his actions, he's now promising to change fundraising rules. Margot McDermott has more.
Cash for access hasn't been a burning issue with the public at Trudeau's cross-country town halls, with only one gentle question so far.
I really invite you as you go forward to really not get involved with anything that's going to taint you in that way. You can rise higher than that.
But it was a different story in the House of Commons, where all fall, the Prime Minister was hammered with questions about integrity.
When did money become more important than the integrity of his office?
The cash for access controversy is about fundraisers held in private homes with donors paying as much as $1,500 for a chance to meet Trudeau. Wealthy business people got direct access to him and some of his ministers. The Prime Minister admits he is lobbied at these things, but says not influenced.
The decisions I take in government are ones based on what is right for Canadians and not on what a individual in a fundraiser might say.
Now the Prime Minister's office has decided to lift the secrecy from the fundraisers, promising a new law to make sure all the events are held in places accessible to the public, advertised so anyone can attend, and reported to the public in a timely manner. It means the Liberals will still hold fundraisers, but now anyone who can afford it can go.
Already, the most stringent fundraising rules in the world have been followed, and now these proposals would take those even further.
There are already guidelines that say no one can have preferential access to government ministers in exchange for donations, but promising a new law is clearly an effort to calm the fuss over fundraising as Parliament resumes next week. The opposition isn't buying it.
They are in trouble, and they want to switch the channel. They want to offer another image.
Last fall, the Federal Ethics Commissioner Mary Dawson said she would question the Prime Minister over the cash for access issue, a practice she described as not very savory. But her office wouldn't confirm today whether she's asked those questions or received any answer. Margaret McDermott, CBC News, Ottawa.
A military plane crashed today during a training exercise in Saskatchewan. 2 pilots managed to eject safely. It happened about 40 kilometers southwest of the Canadian Forces base in Moose Jaw. Our cameras weren't allowed closer, but that's the turboprop aircraft in the distance. The pilot's injuries are described as non-life-threatening. An Ontario nursing home at the centre of a multiple murder investigation has been ordered to stop accepting new residents. Former nurse Elizabeth Wetlaufer is accused of murdering 8 elderly people, 7 of them at the Crescent Care Home. Ontario's Health Ministry says it believes there is a risk of harm there to residents, but it's not clear what that risk is. The home says it's had intensive ministry inspections and hired a consultant to help improve its practices. The parents of a 7-year-old boy whose name keeps showing up on no-fly lists are appealing for help. The Liberal government set up a special office to deal with this kind of problem last year, but dozens of Canadian families say their kids are still being falsely flagged at airport check-ins. Natalie Collada has more on the frustrating task of sorting it all out.
Adam Ahmed is a big hockey fan. So when his name once again triggered a false positive on the no-fly list on his way to a game in Montreal.
So it's because of the name, so next time you might have the same problem again.
Well, we've always had the problem.
Disappointment returned.
I figured at this point it wouldn't be there after a year and all the media exposure by the CBC, but still there. How do I explain to a 6-year-old that he's not going to see a game with his grandparents?
The family has faced delays and secondary screenings with every trip to the airport since Adam was 6 weeks old. And with each year, the worry grows that the delays and extra security checks could become more serious, stigmatizing, and invasive.
It concerns me because right now I can protect him, I can defend him, but as he becomes older, I worry about what will happen.
They're not alone. More than 80 families have contacted the government because their children have been falsely flagged on the so-called no-fly list, some of whom have since turned 18 years old.
More seriously, when these young children, some of which who came forward last year turn 18, they go on the list as adults. So then if they're noted as being a terrorist, our country does not need another Maher Arar.
The Liberal government says it inherited the problem last year, creating the Passenger Protect Information Office, or PPIO, to help air travelers who are falsely matched to names on the no-fly lists. But families report their kids continue to get stuck at airport check-ins for security reviews.
The PPIO is trying as best they can to help people deal with a flawed system.
Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale says a permanent solution requires a complete overhaul of the system, and that will take time and money.
It's a complex matter, and it will take us, I'm sure, well into next year to make sure that this is resolved.
So for now, all the Ahmeds and other families can do is wait and worry. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Just days after the massive Women's March, Washington saw huge crowds again today. The annual March for Life drew tens of thousands of anti-abortion demonstrators, including, for the first time, a sitting vice president.
Because of all of you and the many thousands who stand with us in marches like this all across the nation, life is winning again in America.
Mike Pence praised the work of anti-abortion advocates across the country. He also suggested that President Trump will announce a staunchly pro-life Supreme Court nominee next week. Trump himself said today that evangelical Christians will love his choice to fill the empty seat.
The law now doesn't protect the victim, the law protects the aggressor.
A controversial domestic violence bill passed in Russia's parliament today, known as the slapping law. It effectively decriminalizes assault on family members, except when there is serious bodily harm. Canadian alpine skier Eric Gay narrowly avoided disaster during a downhill race in Germany today. Gay was firing down the slope at about 115 kilometers per hour when he spilled. Just one of 7 big crashes on the course. 2 of the other competitors were seriously injured. But while Gay's tumble looked devastating, he only suffered bumps and bruises. Ontario's premier has denied a controversial request from Toronto's mayor to collect tolls on 2 major highways in the city.
Commuters need to have reliable transit options in place before revenue-generating measures like road tolls are implemented.
The province has severely impacted the city's ability to solve its own fiscal challenges and invest in its priorities.
Ontario says it will instead give municipalities a higher share of the province's gas tax. When it hits, it's sudden but silent, a quick onset of hearing loss. Thousands of Canadians suffer from it every year. But as Cass Rusey explains, some don't realize when it strikes, the clock is ticking to get help.
Music has been part of Richard Einhorn's life for the past 40 years. So when he woke up one morning in 2010, dizzy, ears ringing, and even worse, suddenly deaf in his right ear, he feared the worst.
You bet I was panicked. I was completely panicked. I had no idea what was going on. Immediately I started to think that, it was some sort of brain problem.
What it was a little-known, misunderstood hearing condition called sudden sensory neural hearing loss. Doctors say it's easily mistaken for fluid or wax in the ear or a bad cold. When it comes to what causes it, they're mystified.
We've done pathology and we look at the organ of hearing and see damage consistent with a virus.
And if a person isn't treated within a month, the hearing loss can be permanent.
If you ever wake up or throughout the day notice ringing in your ears, you notice that there's a drop in hearing on one side, and you don't have a cold at the time, you need to get checked.
Treatment usually involves oral steroids or steroids injected right into the eardrum. For Einhorn, a quick diagnosis and a treatment of steroids saved some, but not all, of his hearing. To illustrate just how Richard Einhorn's hearing changed, he recorded his voice. This is how he perceived sounds before the hearing loss.
Oh, how harshly was I repulsed by the doubly sad experience of my bad hearing.
And this is after.
For me to say to men, speak louder, shout.
What this is, says Einhorn, is a simulation of how he hears now. He compares it to a sci-fi robot screaming in his right ear. Einhorn now wears hearing aids, and it doesn't seem to impede his work. He's already on to his next project. It's going to be part opera, part political thriller. Cass Rusey, CBC News, Toronto.
Straight ahead, the stakes were high today for both Donald Trump and Theresa May. Did either one get what they desperately need?
What do you say to our viewers at home who are worried about some of your views and worried about you becoming the leader of the free world?
This was your choice of a question. There goes that relationship.
That was the U.S. president earlier today, providing a moment of levity during his first joint news conference with a foreign leader, British Prime Minister Theresa May. But make no mistake, with Britain's looming departure from the EU, Brexit, and Donald Trump's threats about NATO, there was a lot at stake for each of them today. For their analysis, I spoke earlier with Margaret Evans in London and Keith Bogue in Washington. I started by asking Margaret what the Prime Minister needed to get from this meeting and whether she got it.
I think her people, Wendy, would say that she did. Given the intensity of the media speculation ahead of the visit, most people would have said that she just needed to get through it. People were using language like queasy, stomach churning, because of what Donald Trump had been talking about all week. There was a perception here that Theresa May was kind of going cap in hand to speak with someone unpleasant. But what she really needed was a message from Donald Trump that the United Kingdom will not be walking alone when it leaves the European Union, the dreaded Brexit. She came out of this meeting with a very vague commitment towards greater economic cooperation down the road, but that is going to allow her to answer her critics within her own party and within the country as a whole. She also managed to bring up NATO and the importance of NATO. She said that Donald Trump had told her he was 100% behind NATO, and that will be key for her in keeping the Europeans on side during this difficult time. So I'd say that most people would be judging her visit as a success here.
Keith, what about for President Trump? What were the stakes for him, and how did he do?
Well, I think he was probably delighted to stand next to a world leader who now sees the world in the same way that he does as far as trade goes, as far as international trade and global agreements go. Theresa May a year ago would not have been on the same side of this issue. She was forced to that position by a referendum, as you know. But it does Donald Trump some good to be able to stand next to a woman who is in now the same circumstance that he is in, and say, look, this is where the world is going. We are the people who are giving government back to the citizens. It's happened in Theresa May's country. It's happened in my country. This is what's going on in the world. Pay attention.
So that is a general change in tone. What about details? Any messages, Keith, that you heard of interest?
Well, I think the striking thing about Donald Trump's performance, at least in the news conference this afternoon, was, I've listened to an awful lot of these things over 18 months, and I come away with them usually with a new lead for whatever story I thought I had going into it. That didn't happen today. This was the calmest, most presidential Donald Trump I think we have seen in the time that he's been in office, and I think that probably is the lead. He was drawing within the lines for a change on all of those controversial issues, the commitment to NATO, a healthy skepticism, or more than healthy skepticism about whether he will get along with Vladimir Putin and so on. I think that this was really, in some ways, resetting his own image.
So what was your sense, Margaret? He was sounding more reassuring on issues more important to May, NATO, being supportive of Brexit.
Yeah, I think that their body language was also quite comfortable, and they'll both have been happy with that. On Brexit, he, of course, couldn't resist praising his own power of prediction in saying that he knew the Brits were going to vote in favor of Brexit. He might have given them a little bit of a hint of how he views the future trading relationship with the United Kingdom, in that he said that, part of his problem with the European Union was that in his personal business dealings, it was very difficult to get regulation through. So I'm sure some people here will be picking up on that and saying, let's be very careful. I mean, Britain does have a very good relationship. They export more to the United States than vice versa. And some people will be wary about kind of reopening the can of worms to kind of get a UK-US deal to replace Brexit. But certainly he will have been delivering what Theresa May wanted to hear, to be able to answer the critics who say that she's not able to navigate this difficult time for the United Kingdom as it seeks a new role post-Brexit.
Just one last quick point with you, Keith. It does seem kind of like a flashback, almost reminding people of this special relationship. They've been special friends for a very long time.
And I think it's important to maintain that friendship. And of course, they both say it's going to be even stronger now. But one point to just continue on what Margaret was saying, you know, the Prime Minister of Great Britain still believes in the European Union. She said so in his speech to Republicans yesterday. Donald Trump does not. He thinks it's falling apart and that it will not last very much longer.
Well, it was quite the day. Lots to follow up on there. Thanks very much. Thanks to both of you for being with us tonight.
Thanks.
So, a snappy news conference caps the president's first week in office. But it was hardly Donald Trump's first public performance. The cameras have been rolling often these past 7 days as he signed his first executive orders. They're a direct way for presidents to direct policy. And for people who have wondered, what's he going to do? They offer the first solid answers.
This is an executive order minimizing the economic burden of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act pending repeal.
It's been 7 days of Trump power plays, a flurry of presidential executive actions.
I signed an executive order to roll back the burdens of Obamacare. We've issued executive orders to remove wasteful regulations.
His legally binding orders and presidential memoranda directing government with the stroke of a pen.
Build the Keystone and Dakota pipelines. Keystone Pipeline. The immediate removal of criminal aliens. Immediate construction of a border wall.
Rapid transformations from campaign promise to policy.
And even though it's only a few days, we've done it in record numbers.
He promised when he was on the campaign trail that he was going to make really bold changes. He talked in his convention speech last summer about I alone can fix it. And by this rash of executive orders and actions in the first week of the presidency, he is clearly intending to deliver on that promise to the people who voted for him.
Great thing for the American worker.
The tempo of Trump's actions has been breakneck.
A federal government employee hiring freeze.
Presidents usually come in and they sign a few in their first week. Sometimes they're just transactional. Lyndon Johnson, for example, after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, his first order was to sign an EO saying that there was going to be a national day of mourning. That's the type of thing.
Trump's more than a dozen orders are more in a first week than any president in decades, except one.
The person who really set the precedent for what Trump is doing is Barack Obama.
Obama's headline grabbers in his first week, an order to close the prison at Guantanamo Bay, which ultimately failed, and a ban on so-called enhanced interrogation.
I can say without exception or equivocation that the United States will not torture.
The weakness of executive actions, the next president can just strike them down with their own signature.
In at least Clinton and George W. Bush and Obama, you saw several orders in the first week, pretty dramatic action with immediate reversals.
Trump's innovation is turning each executive action into a major media event.
I don't recall the amount of attention that they're getting. His style is one of great unilateralism, and so you've got this merging of a corporate CEO who's used to acting alone, then sort of demonstrating that kind of bravado in the presidency.
We will build our own pipeline. We will build our own pipes. That's what it has to do with, like we used to in the old days.
Boy, does it make a great visual for the new chief executive to be in the White House with his pen signing a bunch of things.
But Trump's executive actions may be more optics than impact.
There are a lot of executive orders, including some of the ones that Trump has signed in the last week, that really, to make them actionable, require Congress to appropriate money, to change policy or programs.
The first order was a directive to lessen the burden of Obamacare, or what was known as an Affordable Care Act. No one really knew what it meant. The supporters loved the idea that he was unilaterally dismantling Obamacare, but in reality, it wasn't really clear what that order did.
Executive actions don't automatically translate into actual policy. With at least one pipeline tied up in a legal battle, it's unclear how or when they'll be built. With a price tag estimated at least $14 billion, the wall will need money from Congress. Mexico certainly hasn't agreed to pay for it.
México no pagará ningún muro.
Some cities already say they will challenge parts of Trump's order on immigration.
This executive order could, in fact, undermine public safety.
With a stroke of a pen, a president can change the way the government works, but they, in many measures, they are accountable to Congress and to the courts.
And while the Republicans completely control Congress, many are on the record as fierce Trump critics.
And right now, those differences are being papered over, and Republicans are by and large falling in line quite effectively. But having control over the branches of government doesn't necessarily mean that a president gets all he wants.
He is so ideologically unpredictable on issue to issue that it's not clear that he'll have the Republican majority on all issues.
For now, Trump has the media's rapt attention. His controversies drive the headlines.
Trump he's our new great communicator. he's got his various communication platforms, and this clearly seems to be one of them.
To the average American and to lots of his supporters, it gives them the perception of a guy who's doing exactly what he says he'll do.
Except for the military.
Whether this is realistic policy or reality TV politics, in some ways for Trump, it's already working. Up next, a grim perspective on BC's overdose crisis from someone who can't look away.
There's a lot of times where it's just too late and we can't get their heart to restart.
For a big city paramedic, life and death drama is part of the job. Plus, Donald Trump calls them a threat to security. We hear from Syrian refugees in Turkey. Time to check the day's business numbers. The TSX lost 39 points. The Canadian dollar dropped almost 1/4 cent. In New York, the Dow fell slightly. The Nasdaq hit a record high, and the price of oil was down 61 cents a barrel.
What do you think of the paramedics who were able to revive her?
Paramedics are awesome, man.
Every drug overdose starts a ghastly countdown. Will the minutes tick away before medical aid arrives? You're about to meet a paramedic on the front lines of BC's drug crisis. He can rush to the scene 20 times in any given shift, saving many lives, but not all. Natalie Clancy discovers the one thought that gets him through his day.
1 Alpha 1, Robson and Burrard.
This is the most stressful part of the job, getting to the call.
Brian Thwaites has no idea how many of the 914 deaths last year happened on his shift. The 30-year veteran paramedic refuses to keep count.
There's a lot of the times where it's just too late and we can't get their heart to restart.
How often is that in your case?
It happens frequently.
Thwaites has special training in advanced life support and travels alone in an SUV to back up paramedics on complex calls.
Overdoses come in as a very critical emergency in our system. They're not breathing and literally are quite close to death.
We actually bring the emergency room to you in the street.
He carries a $40,000 monitor that will be useful on his next patient who is not breathing in a public washroom.
Excuse me.
How we doing there? Got a good pulse?
Yeah, we got a pulse.
Has she got the Narcan yet?
Thwaites draws up the Narcan shot he hopes will revive her.
0.8 here. Do you want to take care of that? And I'll chart that on here so we got a time on my monitor for you. It's going to be a couple of minutes till she starts to wake here.
Well, she was like pretty much face down on the floor.
Okay. I'm just going to take that for a sec. Do you want to just check the back of her head? Just make sure we don't get any big bumps there.
This woman is fortunate. Her friends started to worry and found her here. A few more minutes alone in this washroom would have been too late.
Hi, hon. Hi, it's okay.
Just relax. You're given Narcan, my dear.
Okay, you're all right. Just relax.
Okay, just relax. You got an airway in your mouth. You pull that out.
Pull it out.
Tube in your mouth. Pull out the tube.
It still took probably about 5 minutes, I think, after the Narcan for her to wake up.
Her reaction to her very close call says it all.
He's just outside. There's nobody in the bathroom right now.
Are you okay, man? Please go with me. Mama, I never leave you.
They haven't had a lot of oxygen circulating through their brain, so they're quite confused. And so they wake up confused in the middle, and in this case, of a bathroom floor, not knowing what's going on with a whole bunch of strange faces looking at them. And I would imagine I know I'd be alarmed.
Why is she strapped in there? Whoa!
Hey man, don't get upset, okay? Everything's all right.
Her frantic friend says he had also overdosed himself earlier in the day.
To kill some nerves and kill some stress or whatever. Went under and I didn't see it coming. And she went under for a little bit, but she's back now.
How long was she down?
Give or take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, as far as when everybody showed up. And
What do you think of the paramedics who were able to revive her?
paramedics are awesome, man. Take care, you guys.
Thwaites says she made the most deadly mistake a drug user can make. She used alone.
That's a sad thing. Nobody wants to die alone. And a lot of these people are, unfortunately.
Like this man who was long gone before anyone found him in a public washroom. Thwaites thinks deaths spiked in November and December because cold weather forced users indoors to use in places where no one will see them collapse.
Or somebody didn't phone 911 soon enough. I've seen cases where people have gone running to find a Narcan kit instead of phoning 911. And tragic outcomes because there's a telephone in the lobby of the building, but they elected to run somewhere else and find a Narcan kit.
His advice to loved ones is call 911 first, and dispatchers will tell you how to keep the patient alive until the paramedics arrive.
Narcan is great, but it's oxygen. The deprivation of oxygen is what's killing these people.
He also fears some users are afraid to call 911, afraid of police.
The police aren't worried about the fact that you've overdosed to get you in trouble. They're the same as us. They want to see you get some help. Okay, can't find them?
They were up and breathing on their own, but there's nobody here.
His next patient took off before he got there, on a block where anyone in a uniform is not welcome.
Go around the other side. They're getting really agitated. We gotta go. There's stuff being thrown. It's in every community. and it affects all walks of life. Addiction is a horrible thing.
And last month, it killed more than 4 people a day in BC.
It's frustrating that it's still happening, but really it's sad. It's sad that many people are dying and we haven't been able to get to them.
This shift alone, he attended 22 overdose calls. He shares his secret to getting through every one of them.
I always think back that whoever that we're dealing with at some point was a little baby that was being bounced on somebody's knee, right? You know, this was somebody's family. And that helps.
Natalie Clancy, CBC News, Vancouver.
From one crisis to another, Donald Trump has closed the door on Syrian refugees. Up next, we get reaction from young Syrians taking refuge in Turkey. As we told you earlier, the U.S. has just suspended its entire refugee program for 120 days. For critics, that's bad enough. Even worse is the new policy for Syrians. Their refugee claims are suspended indefinitely. How might they feel about that? The CBC's Neil Köksal spoke to some living in limbo in Turkey.
It is a classic Turkish song these Syrian refugees now know by heart. Walking along a narrow road, they sing day and night, day and night. The music is meaningful to Hamam Rashid.
So you can't actually define where you're gonna live for the next 10 years. You can't even define where you're gonna live for the next 2 days.
At 17, he isn't fazed by Trump's tactics.
He's shaming himself, he's shaming his country. It's about shame on him.
The Pages Cafe, bookstore, library is a place of comfort for refugees in Istanbul, but also a place to quietly fight stereotypes and fear, to show there is no shame in being a refugee.
It is dangerous, and what he say, it is something dangerous. Through Pages, we try to tell the world that we are Syrian people, we are normal people, we have artists, we have authors, we have literature, and we also offer the world music and art.
No one here on this night is even considering a future in the United States. They know the U.S. has taken in just under 13,000 Syrian refugees. Mohammed Duba, at 18, is hopeful and world-weary all at the same time.
This is just like, I find it, can I say stupid? Because I find it stupid. My grandmother lives there, and she's actually an American citizen. It really breaks my heart, because when we look at history, America was actually built by people who came from all over the world.
Mohammed Duba isn't sure where home will be in the future, and he's okay with that.
It's going to be a bit here in Syria, in other countries, because it's more like a message to the world. We should stop fighting, we should stop hating each other.
Neil Köksal, CBC News, Istanbul.
Now, stay tuned for an eye-popping celebration. It's happening in China, and it's huge. Lunar New Year celebrations are well underway in China, where the Year of the Rooster has already begun. These are highlights of the annual Spring Festival Gala, the most watched and longest running show in Chinese TV history. Hundreds of millions have tuned in religiously for over 30 years. And John Hurt, the legendary British actor, has died at age 77. The news broke late tonight.
I will do my utmost to merit their kindness.
His signature roles included The Elephant Man and the lead role in the film adaptation of Orwell's 1984. But there's no denying the man had range. He played gay trailblazer Quentin Crisp in The Naked Civil Servant and the Wand Maker in the Harry Potter films. In June of 2015, he announced that he had pancreatic cancer. And that's The National for this Friday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm Wendy Mesley. Thanks for watching.